Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Morgan and I'm Council's Chief Executive Officer. I extend a warm welcome to the gallery here in the Senior Citizens Hall in Yarrawonga and those joining us via live stream for this afternoon's scheduled meeting of Council. Consistent with Section 13.3 of our governance rules, Council officers have been authorised to record the public session of this meeting using appropriate recording devices. I now turn to the Chair for the prayer and the welcome.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Could I ask everyone to rise whilst I read the prayer in acknowledgement of traditional owners? Almighty God, we humbly ask you to guide our deliberations for the welfare and benefit of the Moira Shire and its people whom we serve. We, Moira Shire Council, acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, and we pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. Please be seated. Can I also extend a very warm welcome to everyone who has joined our council meeting here in the Yarrawonga Senior Citizen Centre. Can I please particularly acknowledge the gallery we have with us here tonight. It's wonderful to see you join us, and to those who are joining us via the streaming service, we extend a very warm welcome to you as well. Do we have any apologies or leave of absence for tonight's meeting?
No, Chair.
Are there any disclosures of conflict of interest related to matters on tonight's agenda? We'll take it that there are no conflicts of interest to be declared. We do have the minutes of the previous meeting, which was the scheduled council meeting of the 28th of May, available for our consideration tonight. Is there a mover for the adoption of those minutes?
Yes, Chair. I'd move that the minutes of the scheduled meeting held on Wednesday, the 28th of May, 2025, as presented, be adopted.
Thank you, and I'm happy to second that motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. We now move to item 7 on tonight's agenda, and that is the presentation of administrator addresses. I'd like to kick that off with discussing the matter related to Bega's proposed closure of their Strathmerton facility. This announcement by Bega Cheese obviously is a significant decision for the Moira Shire, and one that will have a significant impact not only on Strathmerton but the broader region, with some 300 jobs scheduled to be finished by the middle of next year. Council continues to work with Bega, with Regional Development Victoria and the local community to understand and, where we can, mitigate these expected impacts. This included a meeting with the CEO of Bega, Peter Finlay, and a number of senior executives from the Bega Group on the 30th of May. And this was a great opportunity for us to gain a better understanding of Bega's intentions and measures that they are pursuing to mitigate what will be quite significant impacts. I was really pleased to participate in a number of the Blokes Brekkie events, which were held over the first couple of weeks of June as part of Men's Health Week. So these events were hosted by Council in conjunction with our partners Yarrawonga Health and NCN Health. And the purpose of these breakfasts was to provide a spotlight on the importance of men starting conversation about men's health. The events were held in Yarrawonga, Cobram, Numurkah and Nathalia, and I particularly want to thank our partners and the council staff for their efforts in facilitating these important conversations in our community. As a border community, we face many challenges faced by regulations and services provided across our two states. We had the pleasure of meeting with the Victorian Cross-Border Commissioner, Brett Davis, in Cobram on the 3rd of June, and that was an opportunity for us to discuss some of the issues specifically facing our twin towns. It was really heartening to hear the Commissioner's deep understanding of our issues and broader issues associated with living on the border. And we do look forward to continuing our association and partnership with Commissioner Davis. The administrators and senior executives met with the CEOs of Northeast Catchment Management Authority and the Goulburn Broken Catchment Management Authority on the 4th of June to better understand the role and approach of the CMAs to flood modelling, with a particular focus on recent modelling undertaken by Federation Council. We're looking forward to advancing these conversations as both the catchment management authorities develop their understanding and approach to flood modelling more generally. We were also very pleased to host a meeting of the Murray Region Group of Councils on the 5th of June at the Siebel here in Yarrawonga. Importantly, this meeting also welcomed the Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Nick Stakos, to Moira. So the Murray Region Group of Councils involves the 6 councils from Mildura, Gannawarra, Loddon, Campaspe, Swan Hill and Moira. And this forum is an excellent opportunity for the councils, who all have an interest obviously in bordering the river, to progress a number of matters that are common to our river bordering towns. Hosting the Murray Region Group of Council and the Minister here in Moira also provides us with a great opportunity for us to showcase the new library and exhibition building, which is under construction here in Yarrawonga. And lastly, I just want to make mention of the fact that we met with the member for Nichols, Sam Birrell, on the 11th of June as part of our regular program of meeting with local members of Parliament. These meetings are an excellent opportunity to bring our local MPs up to date with a range of matters and to advocate for matters of local interest to both our state and federal members. And we look forward to rolling out a continued program of meeting with local members throughout the balance of 2025. That's just a quick summary of some matters of interest that I have been involved with over the past month, and I'll now move to Administrator Benedika for her Administrator's report.
Thank you, Chair. This month's seen a diverse range of meetings and activities, many of which have been referred to by the Chair Administrator. A highlight for me was the visit to Cobram's Saputo site in Cobram. The facility's scale and its modern operations really underscore its significant economic role locally and nationally. On the 4th of June, we met with the Moira Youth Council to share updates and invite their insights on the impacts of the closure of Bega's Strathmerton facility. We actually asked them as young people to talk to other young people to find out what those impacts are, what the implications are. And we really value that perspective and look forward to hearing back from the Youth Council as they inform us of the results. As mentioned, it was an honour to welcome Minister Nick Stakos, Minister for Local Government and Libraries, to Cobram for the launch of the GV Open Libraries project. Thanks to funding from the Living Libraries Infrastructure Program, library members can now access Cobram, Nathalia and Numurkah libraries from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m, 7 days a week. Inductions and access cards are available for interested community members. As part of the regional collaboration previously referred to, I've attended the Hume Regional Local Government Network meeting on the 5th of June. The key topics included drought advocacy and the state government's Emergency Services Volunteer Fund. Moira is an active member of that alliance of councils, along with 11 other rural and regional councils. In response to the Bega Strathmerton closure, our advocacy continues as outlined by the Chair Administrator. We also continue to listen to locals for the impact and the implications for the community. This month included further meetings with the Strathmerton Community Planning Committee and the Strathmerton CFA, helping us understand those local impacts and explore some support options. I'd like to add my congratulations to the Economic Development team for a very successful Jobs Expo on the 20th of June. It provided strong employment connections and was well attended, including by many Bega workers seeking new opportunities. Finally, tonight we consider some significant plans: the Council Plan, the 2025-26 budget, the 10-year financial plan, and the Revenue and Rating Plan. These plans have been thoroughly developed with a real eye to a stable financial future for Moira Shire. We were pleased to have those draft documents out for community input. As part of that input, we also had written and verbal submissions that we listened to intently. The input from those submissions helped us shape the final documents before us tonight. Sincere thanks to all who've taken the time and the consideration to provide those submissions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. We'll now move to item 8 on tonight's agenda, and that is reports from our executive officers. And the first I will turn to is our CEO, Mr. Matthew Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. It was great to be able to attend many of the important meetings that you mentioned in your report, and also Administrator Benedika. I won't go over those again for the sake of the meeting. I would like to acknowledge the breadth of items in the agenda this evening, which is a testament to the amount of work being completed across the organisation and much of the involvement involving community conversations and dialogue. We've wrapped up the Building Our Moira engagement campaign, which sought community feedback on the council plan, the financial plan, the annual budget, the revenue and rating plan, and the asset plan. This included promotion through newspapers, online and via social media, as well as pop-up sessions which were staffed, including on weekends, to reach community members. All of those documents are presented this evening for the consideration of Council. I would also like to thank and acknowledge Anthea Sloan, who has completed her term with Council as a member of the Audit and Risk Management Committee, and we also have an item in the agenda for the appointment of a new independent member this evening, Chair. It's already been touched on a couple of times, but the Moira Jobs Expo, I will just like to extend that thank you to Regional Development Australia Hume Region, who provided some financial support to facilitate the event, and also the extended support from Regional Development Victoria. But it was an exceptional first event and very well done by our team to put that on. As part of our focus on the community, this month we also completed our first staff familiarisation tours of the district, which saw almost 40 staff members tour around to learn more about our community and the vastness of our district and all it has to offer. This initiative is aimed at providing staff with the opportunity to understand our community more deeply. I've continued to meet with major businesses across the district in the last few weeks, and in the last few weeks I've had the opportunity to meet with Go Farms, Saputo, and more recently Kelly Brothers. Last week, however, I had the privilege of representing Moira Shire Council at the Australian Local Government Association's National General Assembly in Canberra. We heard from the Australian Governor-General Sam Mostyn AC, the Federal Minister for Local Government Kristy McBain, with some other highlights being presentations from Bernard Salt, Jason Clark, and other speakers. There were a range of topics discussed, from financial sustainability in local government through to emergency management through to road safety initiatives. So I look forward to how we can work closely with our colleagues across the state and across the nation to progress some of these matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Can we now turn to the Director of Infrastructure, Ms. Rachel Gadd?
Thank you, Chair, Administrator Emerson. A number of capital projects are progressing well, with the Yarrawonga Library construction continuing, as well as design plans for the Town Hall, which will progress once the library is finished. The five-way roundabout at the Woods and Cahill Road intersection in Yarrawonga is scheduled to open to traffic on the 5th of July. Temporary lighting will be in place until Powercor completes electrical connections for the permanent lights. Road widening works are complete at Harcourt Street in Nathalia. Sealing of a section of One New Road is complete, which has created a continuous sealed link network between Peachaba and One New. Contract works to clear trees from power lines have been completed for this year, which is a really proactive measure to help reduce bushfires when we're coming into the summer. A landscape plan is being developed for Belmore Street in Yarrawonga, which is intended to enhance the streetscape with added colour and achieve consistency across the landscaping. Surveying will take place over the next month to support this development. Annual inspections of playgrounds across the Shire have been completed, with the works program in place to address identified defects is well underway, including the renewal of softfall to improve safety at many of our playgrounds. And also good news on the recruitment front, with a new manager of operations commencing on the 14th of July and a new manager property and assets commencing in August, and a coordinator of design commencing in July. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Gadd. Can we now turn to the Director of Sustainable Communities, Mr Brian Sword?
Thank you, Administrator Chair Emerson. This month, I'd like to provide an update on the changes that were made to the curbside collection service that were introduced in February this year. I'd like to start by thanking the community for all their actions in response to the frequency changes that were made to the curbside waste collection in February. The volume of organic material collected during the first 4 months has risen by 405 tonnes, and waste sent to landfill has reduced by 306 tonnes when comparing the year-on-year volume of waste collected during the same period, February to May. This has increased our percentage of curbside waste diverted from landfill from 56% in 2024 to 66% year-to-date 2025. I think most impressively, the community needs to be congratulated for achieving this while maintaining a contamination rate in the organic bins below 1%. Just to give some percentages, over the 4 months, the curbside collection increased by 19, 55, 54 and 15% when compared to the previous year months, and the curbside landfill tonnage reduced by 27, 16, 9 and 32% over those same 4 months. I'd like to also provide a brief update on the resale sheds in Cobram, which opened in August 2024, and Numurkah in October 2024. During this period, 138 tonnes of additional waste has been diverted from landfill. We've served over 800 customers, and while not only being a great environmental outcome, it has returned a net benefit of over $25,000 to the waste service during this time. This is when you subtract the operational costs of providing the service from the related sales income and landfill diversion savings. And I would also like to commend the Waste and Sustainability team for their efforts to help inform and support the community through these changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Sword. Can we now turn to the Director of Community, Mr Scott Williams?
Thank you, Chair. Over the past week, there's been some fantastic activity across our communities, which many have already been touched on. But we hosted a national reconciliation event at Cobram Library featuring Isaiah Firebrace reading his book Come Together, and that was a great event. We got some impromptu songs as well, so that was fantastic. And we had some local schools present and zooming in, so a nice afternoon there. We've all touched on the Jobs Expo, but I did just want to touch on that once more. Fantastic event. I think almost 400 people coming through that event with the schools as well. So amazing result, and thanks to the economic development team for their work there. Our tourism team has been busy on a content shoot for our next winter campaign to support the local tourism businesses. We got some beautiful shots here in Yarrawonga on the lake one morning. So stay tuned for what's to come there. Some great content coming. If you've been to Federation Park recently, you might have noticed a new colourful residence. So thanks to the Arts for All group and our Arts and Operation team as well, who bought a beautiful parrot sculpture, founded a permanent home there at Fed Park. So that's worth checking out if anyone's in the area. Men's Health Week, as we've touched on, we had the Blokes Brekkies, but I think we had about 90 people here in Yarrawonga, which was great to see so many people turning out to that one. So well done to all involved there. Coming up, we've got an AI in manufacturing breakfast in Cobram this Thursday. So we'll hear from some leading researchers from RMIT University. That's at 7:30 at Rico Pack. That's in Shubert Street, Cobram. And lastly, I just want to foreshadow a big report coming to Council for consideration, or a significant moment that reflects our positive steps on reconciliation. We presented an acknowledgement of country tonight, but we're also close to finalising a memorandum of understanding, and we're preparing our reconciliation action plan as well, as you know. And just on that, Chair, if I can take a moment to thank Kay Thompson for her leadership in this space. It's her last day with Council today. I know she'll be watching as she prepares for retirement, but I do acknowledge her passion and persistence, in this space, advancing our reconciliation work, and we thank her greatly for her efforts there. But we also recognise her enormous contribution leading positive change for our Shire and Greater Shepparton over a long career in local government. So thank you, Kay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and to the other officers for their presentations tonight as well. Can we now move to item 9 on tonight's agenda, and that is officer reports for determination. The first item tonight is item 9.1.1, dealing with draft guidelines for unsolicited proposals. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Chair. An unsolicited proposal is a proposal from the private and non-government sector which has not been requested by Council through its regular procurement processes and which could assist Council in achieving its strategic objectives or satisfying a community need. Previously, Council has not had a formal process for managing these types of proposals when they are submitted to Council. Adoption of these guidelines will ensure a consistent and transparent approach to how Council will manage these proposals into the future. This report provides the draft guidelines for unsolicited proposals which have been developed to Council this evening for Council's consideration for endorsement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and I'm happy to move that Council adopt the draft guidelines for unsolicited proposals as shown in attachment 1. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. Just very quickly to extend on the CEO's introduction of this item. Currently, Council from time to time does receive unsolicited proposals that are presented to Council. It might be for use of Council land, it might be the provision of a particular service, and to date we have not had a set of guidelines which really sets out a very transparent and consistent approach to how we deal with such unsolicited proposals. It is important from a governance perspective that we are very clear, that we're very consistent, and we're very transparent how we will receive and consider such proposals, given that they generally sit outside our normal procurement processes. And I want to thank the staff for putting these guidelines together. I think it makes it abundantly clear from a governance perspective how we will deal with matters that are in the interests of Council in a very consistent and transparent way when they do come before us. So with that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.1.2, the Moira Shire Council Acknowledgement of Country. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Chair. And as mentioned earlier in my report, this is an important step in our reconciliation journey and a significant moment for our community. As we prepare to bring a formal memorandum of understanding with the Yorta Yorta National Aboriginal Corporation and a reconciliation action plan to Council, it's timely and appropriate to adopt an acknowledgement of country. This proposed wording recognises the Yorta Yorta Nation as the traditional owners and acknowledges a deep spiritual connection of its 8 clan groups. Reflects our commitment to genuine partnership, mutual respect, and the shared goal of reconciliation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, Chair, I'll move this item.
And I'm happy to second the motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Really just to, should I read the motion first? I'm sorry.
Sorry, yes, please.
Thank you. I'd like to move that Council 1 note that the Yorta Yorta Nation Aboriginal Corporation has been acknowledged as the Victorian State Government registered Aboriginal party for the area of the Moira Shire, and 2, adopt the following statement as Moira Shire Council's acknowledgement of country. Moira Shire Council acknowledges Yorta Yorta Nation as the traditional owners of this land. We recognise the deep spiritual connection to land, waterways and community of the 8 clan groups of Yorta Yorta Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
Thank you, Administrator. And as I said, I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would like to speak to it. I think this has been a tremendous amount of work, really good work with Yorta Yorta, and it's part of a whole reconciliation action plan and the way in which we'll approach things in the future. The wording that has been put to us has been wording that's been very closely checked, and we'll be making sure that we use this wording from now on. So thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. I'm happy to put the motion. Those in favour of the motion is carried. Item 9.2.1, Internal Dispute Resolution Procedure. Ms. Amanda Finn.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the internal dispute resolution procedure as shown in attachment 1 of the report and developed in accordance with local government regulations. The Councillor Conduct Framework set out in the Local Government Act 2020 provides for the management of councillor conduct and councillor behaviour. The Model Councillor Code of Conduct and the Internal Dispute Resolution Procedure form part of that framework. Council noted that they will comply with the Model Councillor Code of Conduct at the scheduled Council meeting on the 27th of November 2024. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms Finn. I'm very happy with this one to move that Council adopt the internal dispute resolution procedure as shown in attachment 1 and developed in accordance with section 140 of the Local Government Act 2020. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator. Just very quickly, this is a requirement of all councils across the state to have in place an internal dispute resolution procedure. The Local Government Act is very explicit about a councillor conduct framework which deals with matters of misconduct. But the recent addition to the legislative framework for all councils is that they are all now required to have what is called an internal dispute resolution procedure. In short, it's aimed at resolving internal disputes quickly and early before they step into the more formal councillor conduct framework. And I'm very pleased with the work that's been put together here. I think it's very robust and is very comprehensive, and I'm certainly very happy to be supporting that here tonight. Do you wish to speak as seconder to the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.2.2, the procurement policy. Mr. Bo Mittner.
Thank you, Chair Administrator Emerson. This report is to ensure Council is meeting its legislative requirements under Section 108, subsection 5 of the Local Government Act 2020, which requires that Council review its procurement policy at least once during each 4-year term of the Council. The policy review was performed in consultation with the Hume Regional Procurement Excellence Network and Council's Audit and Risk Committee. Key amendments to the policy through this extensive review include sustained value and local economy definitions have been updated to emphasise economic, environmental and social impacts, as well as local business now being defined as a principal place of business located within the Moira Shire local government area. Inclusion of child safety and modern slavery clauses that reflect Council's responsibilities under relevant legislation. Market testing thresholds have been adjusted to enhance transparency and value for money outcomes, particularly for low-valued procurements. The CEO financial delegation has been updated to $500,000 excluding GST, which was endorsed at the 27 March 2024 Council meeting. The proposed procurement policy establishes a clear framework for Council's procurement activities, ensuring fairness and transparency, mitigates risk, and meets legislative requirements of sections 108 and 109 of the Local Government Act 2020. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mittner. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to move that Council adopt the procurement policy as presented in attachment 1, which has been prepared in accordance with sections 108 and 109 of the Local Government Act 2020.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, Chair, the extensive work that's gone into preparing this has been really highly valued, so thank you to the team. These policies are clearly designed for fairness, transparency and accountability, as well as risk mitigation, and I'm very pleased that we have them sitting in front of us and the extent of the work that's gone into them.
Thank you, Administrator. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. We now move to item 9.2.3, appointment and authorisation of council officers under the Planning and Environment Act 1987. Ms Finn.
Thank you, Chair Administrator. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the revised Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987. These appointments are necessary to ensure specific council officers are appropriately authorised to undertake functions under the Planning and Environment Act 1987, including inspections and enforcement. Appointments and authorisations are made to individuals by name, not position, and must therefore be updated whenever there are changes to staff carrying out these functions. I'd like to note that following the publishing of the agenda, James Andrew, Town Planner, resigned from Council. Therefore, a revised instrument of appointment is hereby tabled for Council's consideration, please. Thanks, Chair Administrator.
Thank you, Ms Finn. I'm happy to move that Council, in the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 147, subsection 4 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, Moira Shire Council resolves that, number one, the members of Council staff referred to in the instrument of appointment and authorisation as shown in attachment 1 and tabled at tonight's meeting be appointed and authorised as set out in that instrument. And number two, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to affix the instrument with the common seal of Council. And number three, the instrument come into force immediately following the seal being affixed to the instrument and remains in force until Council determines to vary or revoke it. And fourth, upon the instrument coming into force, the instrument of appointment and authorisation to members of Council staff as made by Council on 11 December 2024 is hereby revoked. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator. This is a largely procedural matter, but it is critical from a governance perspective that our instrument of delegation when it comes to all matters under the Planning and Environment Act is contemporary and up to date, and the adjustments, the amendments to the instrument which are before us tonight enables us to do that. Do you wish to speak as seconder? If not, I'll put the motion. The motion is carried. Item 9.2.4, appointment of external independent member to Council's Audit and Risk Committee. Ms Finn.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the appointment of Steve Shink as an external independent member to the Moira Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee for an initial period of 3 years, with an option to serve a second term of 3 years to a maximum of 6 years in accordance with the Audit and Risk Committee Charter. A vacancy became available on the Audit and Risk Committee following the end of a 3-year term and resignation of external independent member Anthea Sloan. Following an expression of interest process, Council received 21 applications, of which 3 candidates were shortlisted and interviewed by the Chief Executive Officer and Chair Administrator. Steve Shink has a Bachelor of Business degree in Accounting and Economics and is currently an independent member of a number of Audit and Risk Committees, including Chair. Steve has 35 years' experience in the Victorian public sector in roles including Director, involving strategic planning and reporting, budget, HR and corporate governance. Thank you, Chair Administrator.
Thank you, Ms Finn. I'm happy to move that Council appoint Steve Shink as an external independent member of the Audit and Risk Committee for an initial term of 3 years from 1 July 2025 to 30 June 2028, with the option for a second term of 3 years to a maximum of 6 years in accordance with the Audit and Committee Charter. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. Just very quickly, I also want to publicly acknowledge and thank Anthea Sloan for her commitment and contribution to our Audit and Risk Committee over the past recent years. Our Audit and Risk Committee forms a very important part of our overall governance framework. It has 5 independent members as well as the 2 administrators and serves a critical role in governance, risk and financial oversight. And I'm very pleased that we're in a position tonight to appoint Mr. Steve Shink for the next at least 3 years to serve as one of the 5 external independent members on our committee. Do you wish to speak as seconder to the motion?
Very briefly, Chair, I would also like to welcome and the opportunity to appoint someone like Steve Shink as our external member, or as one of the external members of the Audit and Risk Committee. I would also like to thank Anthea Sloan. In my short time with Council, I've been able to sit in on a full Audit and Risk Committee meeting. The amount of work that goes into the preparation for those meetings, the consideration, the deep understanding of what's going on and the external advice we get is excellent. So I'd really like to say thank you to Anthea.
Thank you, Administrator. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.2.5, receipt and hearing of submissions, building our Moira. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, Chair, I'd like to move that council note
I jumped the gun. Sorry, Ms. Finn.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the minutes of the Committee of Council meetings held on Wednesday the 4th of June and Wednesday the 11th of June that considered the submissions received from the community on the draft Council Plan 2025-2029, the draft Budget 2025-2026, the draft Financial Plan 2025 to 2035, the draft Revenue and Rating Plan 2025-2029, and the draft Asset Plan 2025 to 2035. Council sought submissions from the community in accordance with Council's community engagement policy via a consolidated engagement campaign called Building Our Moira. Council received 19 submissions from the community and considered these submissions as part of the development of the final documents, including hearing presentations from community members who requested to speak to their submissions. A summary of the submissions and Council's responses are shown in attachment 3 of the report, and the minutes of the Committee of Council meetings are also presented as attachment 1 and 2 of this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Finn. Is there a mover for this item?
I certainly would like to move this item. I'd like to move that Council 1 note the feedback received during the community engagement process, Building Our Moira, on the draft Council Plan 2025 to 2029, draft Budget 2025 to 2026, draft Asset Plan 2025 to 2035, draft Financial Plan 2025 to 2035, and the draft Revenue and Rating Plan 2025 to 2029, and thank the submitters for their submissions. 2, note the minutes of the Committee of Council meeting convened to consider submissions received on the draft strategic documents held on Wednesday the 4th of June as shown in attachment 1. And 3, note the minutes of the Committee of Council meeting convened to consider submissions received on the draft strategic documents held on Wednesday the 11th of June as shown in attachment 2.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I would like to thank everyone who took the time to place some submissions either in writing or before us verbally. It was wonderful to be able to hear those submissions, the thought that had gone into them, and then to take those submissions into account to make our documents much stronger as we went through. So thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Can we now move to item 9.2.6, which is Council Plan 2025 to 2029? Ms. Finn?
Thank you, Chair, Administrator. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the Council Plan 2025 to 2029, shown in attachment 1 of this report. The Council Plan has been developed in accordance with Section 90 of the Local Government Act 2020 and follows feedback received during community consultation conducted in accordance with Council's community engagement policy. The Council Plan 2025 to 2029 sets out the strategic direction for Moira Shire over the 4-year period, outlining Council's strategic objectives, priorities and key actions to support a thriving, connected regional community. The Council Plan is centred around 5 key pillars, following the themes of the Moira 2045 Community Vision of community, environment, livability and prosperity, and includes a 5th pillar of leading organisation. The Community Panel also provided valuable feedback on the draft Council Plan document during a workshop held on the 13th of May. This review ensured alignment with the Moira 2045 Community Vision as part of the terms of reference of the Community Panel. Thank you, Chair Administrator.
Thank you, Ms. Finn. I'm happy to move that Council adopt the Council Plan 2025 to 2029, developed in accordance with Section 90 of the Local Government Act 2020 and as presented in attachment 1. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. Council's council plan is essentially our 4-year strategic plan. This document will shape and craft our direction and influence all of our activities over the next 4 years. I've been delighted with the level of engagement we've had from the community and across our organisation, and particularly from the community panel. We assembled a community panel of some 18 community members representing the broad geographic area of Moira, and they have been significant in influencing both, obviously, our vision statement, our 20-year vision statement, but also our 4-year strategic plan known as the council plan. Thank you to the 19 submitters that participated in the community feedback process, and we have made some amendments to our draft council plan as we put it out to the community based on that feedback as well. We really do now look forward to getting on with the implementation of this very significant strategic plan for the council over the next 4 years. Do you wish to speak as seconder to the motion?
Again, very briefly, Chair, I would like to reinforce what you've been able to say in that this is a link to our Moira 2045 vision. This is the 4 years that gets us to that longer term vision. It's considered, it links in very much with other strategic documents, which was why all the documents came out as a suite. And it's been a pleasure to be involved in this. Painful sometimes, but a pleasure as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. We now move to item 9.2.7, our strategic financial documents. Mr. Mittner.
Thank you, Chair, Administrator Emerson. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the adoption of the Financial Plan 2025 to 2035, Revenue and Rating Plan 2025 to 2029, and Budget 2025 to 2026 as attached to the report. At the 30 April 2025 Council meeting, Council endorsed the draft Financial Plan, draft Revenue and Rating Plan, and draft Budget for public consultation. The consultation period ran for a minimum period of 21 days in accordance with Council's community engagement policy. As mentioned by Ms Finn, community engagement was conducted online through Council's Building Our Moira campaign, as well as in person through 4 drop-in sessions, 1 held in each of the major towns, and through 2 submissions hearings. Community submissions received focused primarily on the draft budget, with themes including support for the Thompsons Beach Master Plan, local tourism, arts and culture, and capital projects. As a result of this feedback, the draft budget was updated to better reflect the continued funding for the Moira Creative Arts Hubs and local tourism associations. The financial impact of new information made available since the release of the draft budget has also been reflected in the proposed budget. The budgeted operating surplus is expected to improve by an additional $336,000 to $13.42 million, with an adjusted underlying deficit improvement of $240,000 to an expected underlying deficit of $127,000. Whilst the draft financial plan and draft revenue and rating plan were unchanged as a result of community feedback, amendments have been made to accommodate new information, such as updates to future interest rates assumptions for borrowings and recent changes made to the Victorian Government's Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund. The community consultation process and updates to the budget reinforces Council's commitment to transparent governance, financial sustainability and responsiveness to communities' priorities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mittner. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, I'd like to move this item. The Council adopt the Financial Plan 2025 to 2035 included as Attachment 1 that has been developed in accordance with Section 91 of the Local Government Act 2020. 2, adopt the Revenue and Rating Plan 2025 to 2029 as presented in Attachment 2 that has been developed in accordance with Section 93 of the Local Government Act 2020. 3, adopt the Budget 2025 to 2026 as presented in Attachment 3 that has been developed in accordance with Sections 94 and 96 of the Local Government Act 2020. 4, declare the rates and charges detailed in Section 6 of the 2025-26 Budget Report, that is at Attachment 3, including a general rate, municipal charge, environmental charge, and waste collection service charge. And 5, declare and fix the fees and charges detailed in Section 8 of the final 2025-26 budget report, attachment 3, to be charged in respect to various goods and services during the 2025-26 financial year.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak as the mover of the motion?
These are significant financial plans, and each of these plans links with each other. So whilst we have a budget for 1 year going forward, that links very much to the 10-year financial plan, to the 10-year revenue and rating plan. The charges, the fees that have been outlined here have been taken into account in those future documents. This has been a significant amount of work by council staff. Undertaken significant consultation, as we've heard, and a lot of really strong work put into a lot of the combinations of what are the best rates and the way in which they might be structured so that we can have a sustainable future. To hear the results that we are putting to the budget tonight is really excellent. Thank you very much for all of your work.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. And just to add to that, I'd also like to compliment the CEO and the organisation for their efforts over the last 12 months to substantially address some of the financial structural challenges that the council 12 months ago was faced with. That has seen our long-term financial plan, whilst it still has financial challenges, it has placed us now in a much more sustainable financial position for the next 10-year period. And it enables us to adopt the next year, 1-year budget, the 25-26 budget, with a high level of confidence that the decisions we are making in year 1 have been accommodated over the long term. So I do want to, again, compliment Mr. Morgan and his team for the substantial work that's been done to place us in a far healthier financial position and to be able to project that forward for the next 10 financial periods. It doesn't mean we are out of financial challenge. We have some substantial financial challenges, particularly looking after an asset base as stewards on behalf of the community of hundreds of millions of dollars. A lot of those assets were built in post-Second World War period and are coming towards the end of their useful life. And we will need a very disciplined approach to how we look after our existing assets, how we maintain them, replace them and repair them over the long term to make sure we sustain our financial position for that long-term period. So with that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Can we now move to item 9.3.1, public lighting policy? Ms. Gadd.
Thank you, Chair Administrator Emerson. The public lighting policy presents an updated public lighting policy for adoption following a community engagement process. The policy helps to manage the installation and maintenance of public lighting and addresses advances in LED technology and sustainability practices. The recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Gadd. I'm happy to move that Council Number 1 note the feedback received during the community engagement process and thank the submitters for their feedback. And Number 2, adopt the public lighting policy as presented in Attachment 1. Is there a seconder for that?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. This matter is relatively straightforward, but it does enable us now to have an updated public lighting policy. Public lighting policy has a significant impact on community safety and traffic movement. And it is important that we have a policy which remains up to date. It also deals with where we might have requests for changes to our public lighting, and it sets out a framework for us to do that in a very transparent and consistent way when those requests come our way. Do you wish to speak as seconder to the motion?
No.
If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.3.2 on tonight's agenda is the Tungamah Courthouse and community engagement. And Ms Gadd.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks Council's endorsement to undertake community engagement regarding the proposed handover of management responsibilities for the former Tungamah Courthouse site. The engagement will help determine whether there is ongoing community interest or a viable use for the property before proceeding with a formal request to the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action for revocation of Council's Committee of Management role for the site. The recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms Gadd. I'm happy to move that Council seek feedback from the community in accordance with Council's community engagement policy regarding the intention to seek ministerial approval to revoke Council's appointment as Committee of Management of the former Tungamah Courthouse property, known as Certificate of Title Volume 11807 Folio 629, located at Argus Street, Tungamah, in accordance with Section 14, Subsection 1 of the Crown Land Reserves Act of 1978. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator. Just by way of background, there has been conversation in the Tungamah community for a considerable period of time concerned with the future of the building known as the former courthouse in Tungamah. For those of you who will be familiar with this building, it's a magnificent architectural building, and there is a very strong interest within the community for the architectural integrity of this building to be looked after, to be preserved, to be protected for the long term. Some of those conversations in the community have centred around the opportunity or the best opportunity to protect that building for the community's long-term interests may lie in the building being in private ownership, where the maintenance and the care and the upkeep of the property may be more easily accommodated. So before we go down that path, however, it is important that we seek feedback from the community, and this resolution, if it's passed tonight, is an opportunity to start that conversation with the broader community, but particularly Tungamah, who will have an interest in the future of this property. And we do look forward to receiving feedback from the community to hear their views on the future of the courthouse building. Do you wish to speak as seconder of the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to build on that there have been community conversations underway about this already, and I really welcome that the formally putting it to community consultation so we make sure that every voice is heard and really get a chance to have a say on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. 9.3.3 on tonight's agenda is our asset management policy. Ms Gadd.
Thank you, Chair. This report presents the updated asset management policy following a period of community engagement for Council's consideration and adoption. It consolidates previous policies for asset management, valuation and capitalisation of assets, and includes new principles for asset acquisition and disposal to guide the asset lifecycle management. And the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms Gadd. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, I'd like to move that Council adopt the asset management policy as presented in attachment 1.
Thank you, and I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak as the mover?
I'm very heartened by the inclusion of new principles that guide our asset management policy. Again, a thorough piece of work. Really, congratulations to the team for putting this together.
Thank you, Administrator Benedicta. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.3.4, the Yarrawonga Holiday Park public access to boat ramp. Ms Gadd.
Thank you, Chair. This report proposes community engagement on the potential removal of public access to the boat ramp located within the Yarrawonga Holiday Park lease area due to safety, maintenance and access concerns. With a new fully operational public boat ramp now available at Cullens Road, Council seeks feedback to inform future decisions regarding the Burleigh Road ramp at the Yarrawonga Holiday Park. The recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms Gadd. I'm happy to move that council seek feedback from the community in accordance with council's community engagement policy regarding the proposal to remove public access to the boat ramp within the leased premises of the Yarrawonga Holiday Park area. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator. This matter tonight provides an opportunity to seek feedback from the community in relation to a proposal to discontinue public access to the boat ramp, which most locals would know as being within the Yarrawonga Holiday Park area. Council and others funded the significant development of a boat ramp at Cullens Road, which was opened in 2023. It was the intention, as I understand, with the construction of the boat ramp at Cullens Road to move forward to position it as the main public access boat ramp and in turn to then discontinue public access to the boat ramp which sits within the Yarrawonga Holiday Park leased area. Those of you who will be familiar with the area will understand that the Yarrawonga Holiday Park is a very significant caravan and camping area. It's been a major asset for the Yarrawonga community for many, many years, and I'm very heartened to hear that the committee, the Yarrawonga Holiday Park Committee, has plans to do further major extensions and improvements to the holiday park area. To do that, however, it does continue to compromise the leased area and the operation of the holiday park by having a publicly available boat ramp that sits within that leased area. So before we move forward with this proposition, this proposal, it is important that we seek feedback from the community, and the resolution, if it is carried tonight, will enable us to start that process. And we look forward to hearing the community's views on this proposition. Do you wish to speak as seconder? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.3.5 on tonight's agenda is the former Yarrawonga Primary School site expression of interest process. Ms Gadd.
Thank you, Chair. This report recommends initiating a two-stage expressions of interest process to be completed by the 31st of December 2025. This process intends to explore the future community use and investment opportunities for the former Yarrawonga Primary School site. A registration of interest process will be completed initially and will then be followed by an expression of interest process. Relevant and up-to-date information regarding the costs to upgrade the buildings will be provided as part of the expression of interest. And the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms Gadd. I'm happy to move that council, in relation to the property located at 2 Tom Street, Yarrawonga, generally referred to as the former Yarrawonga Primary School site, authorise the CEO to initiate a two-stage expression of interest process to inform the development of a master plan and investment strategy for the future use of the site, and as detailed in the report before us tonight. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator. The former Yarrawonga Primary School site is a very prominent and high-profile site of some 3.5 hectares located very central here in Yarrawonga. The site has been vacated for a period of time now, with the primary school being relocated to the southern area of Yarrawonga. The council, on behalf of the community, has expressed to the state government its desire to acquire the 3.5 hectare site for the community's benefit, for the community's use in perpetuity. We are in negotiations with the state government to finalise those negotiations, but a key component of the negotiations is to understand through a detailed and comprehensive and strategic master plan the future use and desire by the community to use this site, including the investment that might be required and available from the community to reactivate for community use this very prominent site. The two-stage process to seek expressions of interest is an important step forward in us securing a very clear and strategic master plan that will demonstrate the benefit to the community in perpetuity. We look forward to those who have an interest in potentially utilising and progressing the development of the site. We look forward to them coming forward, particularly in the initial expression of interest process, which will be a higher level of EOI process. And then the second stage will be taking those expressions of interest forward into a more detailed plan to enable us the shaping up of our strategic master plan by the end of this calendar year. That then positions us to conclude our negotiations with the state government. So this is a really important step. We understand, we acknowledge and we respect that this is a site of considerable interest to the Yarrawonga community, and we're really looking forward to getting underway with the EOI process and the development of the master plan so we can bring this much loved site back to life and back to use for the community. Do you wish to speak as seconder to the motion?
Again, very briefly, Chair, but I would like to say that this is a prominent site. There is a lot of interest in the site, and it's going to be good to have those community expressions of interest so that we can make sure that the investment strategy and master plan for the future serves the interests of the community. And it is also important to note that this will help us and help others understand the costs involved in the long term. So thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Can we move to item 9.3.6, Asset Plan 2025 to 2035? Ms Gadd?
Thank you, Chair. This report presents the draft asset plan for 2025 to 2035 for Council's adoption, outlining strategic priorities and financial planning for the management of community assets across the next decade. Developed in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, the plan ensures alignment with Council's broader strategic documents and supports sustainable service delivery across the Shire. The recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms Gadd. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, I'd like to move this item. I'd like to move that Council adopt the draft asset plan 2025 to 2035 as presented in attachment 1.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to point out that Council's responsible for an extraordinary amount of assets, including roads, bridges, curb and channel, pathways. There are a number of increases in that asset base, and these assets are documented in this particular plan, and it includes more assets coming through from subdivisional developments and the growth in Cobram, Numurkah and Yarrawonga, as well as drainage assets. It's incredibly important that we have a plan that serves us for the future, and that plan is integrated with our other financial strategies. So thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Can we now move to item 9.4.1 on tonight's agenda, and that is an integrated water management plan for Victoria Park in Yarrawonga. Mr. Sword.
Thank you, Administrator Chair. The Yarrawonga Showgrounds in Victoria Park is the largest recreational precinct in Yarrawonga. It comprises 8 ovals, P12 College, Community Garden, Yarrawonga Cemetery, and is home to more than 15 community user groups. Up until 2023, the site was largely irrigated using backwash water from the North East water treatment plant. An upgrade to the water treatment plant meant that backwash water reuse scheme was discontinued in late 2023. As following the upgrade, the residual water quality was no longer fit for purpose for irrigation. Since this time, the site has been irrigated using a potable water source under a short-term agreement with North East Water at a subsidised rate. While this has ensured short-term water security for the precinct, using potable water is a poor environmental and financial outcome over the long term. In response to this, the physical requirements and associated costs of obtaining diverse sources of water for irrigation of the precinct have been investigated. The Integrated Water Management Plan before Council tonight is a joint initiative of Council, DECA and North East Water. The water supply solution recommended by the Integrated Water Management Plan and recommended by officers is Opportunity 1.2, surface water extraction from Lake Moala. This water source is recommended as it is only one of two options that can supply 100% of the required water and is preferred over option 1.1 or opportunity 1.1 as it provides council with greater autonomy and control over the water supply assets. I'd like to note that council has allocated $818,000 in the 25-26 budget to complete the design and capital works to deliver surface water extraction from Lake Moala. This report recommends completing the design work in 2025 and completing works in 26-27. While this project could end here, it is recommended that a better integrated water management outcome for this precinct would be to explore grant opportunities to combine Opportunity 4.0 Glenmire Estate Stormwater Harvesting Scheme. This scheme would offer up to 48% of the precinct's water demand. We believe that this is a good candidate for funding and will explore grant funding opportunities over the next 12 months without compromising delivery of Opportunity 1.2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sword. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, Chair, I would move that Council 1 receive the report at Attachment 1 titled Yarrawonga Integrated Water Management Plan, Alternative Water Supply for Yarrawonga Showgrounds, Victoria Park and Surrounds. This report was prepared by Spire Australia Proprietary Limited and acknowledges the financial contributions of Victorian Government and North East Water in preparing the report. 2, adopt recommended Opportunity 1.2, surface water extraction from Lake Moala from the report as the water source to supply Yarrawonga Showgrounds, Victoria Park and Surrounds, noting that it provides the highest level of water security. 3, explore grant funding opportunities to implement recommended Opportunity 4, Glenmire Estate Stormwater Harvesting Scheme from the report, noting that this provides the highest integrated water management outcome, with a further report to be brought to the Council for further consideration. 4, note the allocation of $818,000 in Council's proposed 2025-26 budget to complete the design and capital works to deliver surface water extraction from Lake Moala. 5, allocate $50,000 in Council's proposed 2025-26 budget to undertake the design work and defer the remaining $768,000 to 2026-27 in Council's long-term financial plan to explore grant funding opportunities. 6, seek to extend the North East Water Victoria Park Water Settlement Supply Agreement for a period of not less than 2 years to provide ongoing water security to the Yarrawonga Showgrounds and Victoria Park Precinct whilst the infrastructure project is designed and delivered.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I am happy to speak to the motion. The Showgrounds of Victoria Park Precinct is a very important area, and as noted by Mr. Sword, there are a number of tenants that are there. It's important that we have a long-term solution for the water supply for that area. We've also got a priority in our council plan for more integrated water management projects, and I'm pleased to see that we're actually taking that into account. There are a number of opportunities were investigated as part of the thinking behind the best integrated water management outcome that we could obtain. And the recommendation that's been made in this report chooses the one that gives us 100% water supply and backs it up with an alternative that really provides an integrated water management solution. That alternative is seeking additional grant funding, and I have high regard for the officers who have saying that this looks really good to attract external funding. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Administrator Benediker. And just to build on your comments, we definitely need a permanent water supply solution for Victoria Park, the Showgrounds and the Yarrawonga Cemetery. And I'm really looking forward to us moving forward with implementing this permanent long-term solution for the water supply needs for this important precinct over the next 2 financial years. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 10 on tonight's agenda is notices of motion. Do we have any notice of motion, Mr. CEO?
No, Chair.
I understand there are no petitions or joint letters for tonight's meeting.
No, Chair.
No matters for the application of the council seal.
No, Chair.
And any matters of urgent business?
Not this evening, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. We'll now move to item 14 on tonight's agenda, and that is public question time. Just for the benefit of the gallery, we provide an opportunity for members of the community to submit up to 2 questions to us, and also complement that with an opportunity to come along and speak to those questions at our council meeting here tonight. So we do have some questions that have been submitted. The process is that I will announce the submitter of the question, and we will invite the submitter to come forward to the lectern, and you have 2 minutes to speak to your question, following which we will have a response from officers to your question. So the first submitter tonight of our public question is Janet Tett. Do we have Janet with us? Janet, do you wish for me to read your question out whilst you come up, or do you wish to read it? Sorry? Okay, so Janet's question is, in relation to the acquisition of the former Yarrawonga Primary School site, the Yarrawonga Mawala Artists Association Incorporated would like to express our interest in the project. Our question is, what is your expectation of the community groups who would wish to utilise this facility? So thank you, Janet, for your question. 2 minutes to speak to your question.
You've pretty much answered a lot of the questions as we've been listening. Of course, it's the amount of funding, I suppose, what we're waiting to see now, that what you're expecting from us. And are you expecting groups, say, for example, our Artist Association, we already have a gallery, but we come under the umbrella of Regional Arts Victoria and the state government. And will you be looking at some of the groups like us to be applying for funding further on through Regional Arts Victoria and places like that? Or are you expecting us to raise the funds ourselves?
Thank you, Janet. I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Janet, for the question and for your interest. Some additional context there in your question, but I think the first thing is to clarify that we'll release the early registrations process later this week. We'll provide that to you directly as well. Then in approximately 8 weeks' time, we'll release the EOI documentation. With that documentation, we'll include all relevant background and condition-related data for the buildings. And we are just working through validating engineering reports with builders' quotes for the refurbishment of those buildings. And then what we would anticipate is that we would ask each organisation to consider what they can contribute to the initial cost of refurbishment, and then also what the longer-term occupation looks like in terms of ongoing rental, whether that goes into a sinking fund or something similar for the upkeep of the site there. So they're the conversations that we'll look to establish through the EOI documentation, but we will put all of those requirements out in about 8 weeks' time. And it is a little bit subject to what comes back through the EOI processes, what conversations we then have with the relevant groups moving forward. So we don't know the answers to all your questions just yet, but I think it would be pretty fair to say that we would welcome funding behind organisations from any source, whether that's from Regional Arts Victoria or other groups, to help with this project.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and thank you, Janet, for your question. Jan McCulley, do we have Jan with us? Yes, Jan, do you want to speak to your... Okay. Just for Just for the record, Jen's question was, would the council consider the attached proposal for part of the old Yarrawonga Primary School site? And I think your question is attached to Janet's, yes? Okay, you're satisfied, you're clear on what the process will be from here, and nothing is ruled in, nothing is ruled out at this stage. This is a very open process, and we would look forward to any proposals that you and your organisation might bring forward as part of that process. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jan. Next question is from Anthony Self. Anthony, are you here? Anthony, would you like to come forward to the lectern? Do you wish for me to read your questions, or will you read them?
Appreciate if you read it. Thanks,
Okay, so we'll deal with, you've got two questions, so we'll deal with the first one and respond to that, and then we'll move to the second one. We'll give you 2 minutes to speak to each of those questions. The first question is, employers, workers, residents and ratepayers in the Yarrawonga Aerodrome Precinct are not being consulted or informed of changes, works and council activities at the aerodrome. Some of these changes greatly impact aerodrome businesses and users. In fact, there's been virtually no written communication between the aerodrome manager and stakeholders over the past few years. Will the council act to honestly and openly engage with stakeholders with proper consultation on things like grant applications, weed spraying, maintenance priorities, security incidents, risk assessment and safety matters as a matter of urgency? So, Anthony, would you like to speak to that matter for 2 minutes?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. The Yarrawonga's aviation community is very passionate about the ongoing success, development, management, maintenance of the Yarrawonga Aerodrome, which is a great community resource. That community that I spoke of has a wealth of experience in aviation matters. For example, just flying out at the airport this afternoon was a retired airline pilot that used to be an international 747 pilot and has worked all around the world and has got a wealth of experience. He hasn't received any correspondence from council regarding the aerodrome or things happening at the aerodrome for at least 5 years. And that's just one example. There's lots of other people that have experience and have lots to offer, but have no method of input into any decision-making process. As a little example, the current process for things such as weed spraying activity or robotic mowers, the process that we go through is we hear a rumour, we ask around our community by word of mouth, we then go and dig, we often then phone council, and then eventually we find an answer. And to me, starting with a rumour and then finding out an answer after that is very silly. So that process really needs to be improved. Another
30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Another more critical example would be the aerodrome manual, which has a legal status. As far as we know, no one in that aviation community was consulted on the development of that manual. And in fact, nobody was told in that community was told that the manual was reissued late last year. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, thank you, Anthony. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Anthony, for the question and for the concerns there. Just probably two parts to the response, and acknowledging that council doesn't always get communication right and stakeholder engagement right, and there is always room for improvement. I think that's what we acknowledge first and foremost here. There are two processes. One relates to operational matters, and I believe there has been some correspondence in February 2025 in relation to some of those matters with some of the stakeholders, and the offer still remains to meet, and Director of Infrastructure Rachel Gadd will follow up on that. I also understand that there is a meeting being planned for July to provide some updates on two capital works programs which will occur out at the airport as well. One being widening of the runway, and one being resealing works on the runway, which will be completed. The second thing I'll reflect on is there has been some early engagement on the development of a strategic master plan for the airport. And that process is coming to conclusion. That will come back via council in August, and then that will go out for broader community consultation and stakeholder engagement with the broader airport community in around August into September as well. So apologise for, I guess, the past communication. It's certainly an area we can certainly improve. We do have some pretty hefty engagement coming up around the master plan process, though. So appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Anthony, your second question was, last summer, after a serious accident on the lake, ambulance officers had to wait for the arrival of 2 air ambulance helicopters in 40-degree heat in the Yarrawonga terminal building carport. The air-conditioned terminal building was locked, and air and road ambulance crews had not been given the door code nor instructions to deactivate the alarm. Further, when the air ambulance arrives for an emergency after dark, which they regularly do, the pilots have to do pre-flight inspections by torchlight. Why is the terminal building locked 24 hours per day to all aerodrome users as a matter of course, even emergency services, and why haven't external floodlights been prioritised? So Anthony, 2 minutes again to speak to that question.
Yeah, I'm just on the air ambulance issue. By coincidence, a King Air ambulance arrived today to a patient transfer, and I spoke to them about what they needed and floodlights. They looked up their, they have access to a duty manager's application, so they do have a door code, but not the alarm code apparently. And they said that they would be interested in seeing what other airfields do with regard to lights for night operations. But they did point out that they often operate into fields, so they're used to doing things by torch lights. But on the general matter of access to the terminal building, my partner and I have just flown our little plane across to Western Australia and back and passed through 18 different aerodromes. And in each case, including some which were security controlled RPT aerodromes, such as Port Lincoln, we had no problem in accessing the terminal building whatsoever, or any of the access gates that allowed us to get in and out of the airport. But at Yarrawonga, we find that difficulty. Visiting pilots don't have access to the terminal building. And that is an aberration. That is very, very, very unusual for any aerodrome that we've been to visit.
Okay, thanks, Anthony. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again, Anthony. And I think just to reiterate that a component of these conversations will unfold as part of the conversation around the master plan and access to the facilities. That is certainly a component of the master planning process. So that will be a discussion point the next 6 to 8 weeks. I just also acknowledge the commitment from the Director of Infrastructure to follow up directly with the local ambulance services and other emergency service users of the facility, just to ascertain their needs in the short term as well. So again, just take the comments as noted and appreciate the feedback. Yeah.
Good, thank you, Anthony. Do we have Angela Stevenson with us? Angela, would you like to come forward? Would you like me to read your question while you come forward? Yep. Angela's question is, some stakeholders of the Yarrawonga Aerodrome Precinct have been trying to meet with council management to discuss concerns regarding safety, bullying and retribution for at least 12 months. And each attempt has been rejected, pushed down the line, deferred or obfuscated. Given past history at Moira, why is it so difficult for ratepayers, residents and businesses to meet with management and executive leadership when serious matters are raised? So, Angela, 2 minutes to speak to that matter.
Yes, I have no need to speak to the matter. I'd just like the question responded to.
Sure. Okay, Mr. CEO.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Angela. Just in relation to the concerns raised, we acknowledge that there has been some correspondence backwards and forwards between yourself and I believe Director of Infrastructure Rachel Gadd in February and in June this year. And I guess the extension of the opportunity to have a conversation directly still remains, and I'm happy to be a party to that conversation as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
That would be great.
Good. Thanks. Thanks, Angela. Thank you for your question. Is Carol Henderson with us tonight? I don't think I've seen Carol. Carol did submit a question, but she's not here. Can we then go to Kelly Cooper? I think Kelly's here, I saw. Kelly, you have two questions. Do you want me to read the questions or are you going to read them?
Well, the first one is, you spoke a bit about it tonight. So how did the Moore Shire Council come to a decision for a community panel for 2045 agenda? Who agreed on this? Was this agenda 2045 put in place from the federal or state government or the United Nations? And
Do you wish to speak to that question?
well, the
Kelly?
reason is mainly I've been coming and listening to what you speak about it, but it was more the comments that were on Facebook that weren't very inviting. Like they weren't speaking, they were bagging it, right? Basically, they were putting it down.
We can explain the process of the establishment and the appointment of the members, how we went about that. Would that be of use here, Kelly?
Sorry?
Do you want us to explain the process of selecting?
No, I realise you select them, you said that, but how did you discuss for 20 years in ahead, like for your agenda? How do you get the 20 years? Who made that decision? That's all I want to just know.
Why a 20-year period? Is that the question? Right. Okay. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Kelly. Just to clarify, so Section 88 of the Local Government Act requires council to develop and maintain a community vision, and it has to be for a minimum period of 10 years in accordance with our deliberative engagement policies. So as part of that process, council decided to make it a 20-year vision. So it's a long-term forecast for the community. And then we can work backwards from that because we're required to endorse a range of other 10-year plans and then 4-year plans to support the delivery of that. The terms of reference for the community panel were endorsed on the 28th of August, and the members were appointed in November 2024. The panel met several times through workshops and effectively agreed on the key themes and then the content of the community vision that is then presented for council consideration and for the feedback from the community. I can't talk to what Facebook says about the community vision. I think, people say things in various forums. We don't go trawling forums. We do rely on the feedback and the fact that we had 18 members of the community on the panel, and they were certainly talking and presenting the community vision to their networks and getting feedback from them.
So when you say the government, is that federal or state?
Councils are constituted by the Victorian government under the Local Government Act.
Yep.
So these are requirements of the Victorian government.
Yeah.
Kelly, can we then move to your second question tonight?
The community panel of 2045, what is the outcome for the health and the well-being of the community? So what data will the community panel be using, members be using to monitor the health and the well-being from the clinical trial global experiment COVID-19 vaccines? So
do you wish to speak to that for 2 minutes?
So we already know that it come out publicly that the lockdowns and the curfews were lies and not based on any health advice. The media released that. So what about for the mental health and well-being of the people, the businesses that were closed or went bankrupt, the loss of jobs, suicides, homeless people, and our children's education? So another one is, hang on. I don't know if people are aware of this, but there was a trial, the Queensland Royal Brisbane and Women Hospital Metro North. The Queensland Health intends to destroy the evidence of the COVID-19 vaccine trials. In 2021, a major research project, the COVAX study, started to a research of 10,600 biospecimens from donors with the COVID-19 injections, and from the donors and non-donor injections. The study was an effective and an outcome of being injected versus non-injected. It was the largest of this nature in the world to date. Only 18 months, the 20 million program was shut down suddenly.
Kelly, 30 seconds, Kelly.
Yeah, well, This is on Facebook. I haven't seen this in the mainstream media. Senator Malcolm Robbins on Facebook, he actually spoke about it. So if we don't have a research, how do we know what's going to be the outcome of these vaccines?
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again, Kelly. I think the question was relating back to how will the community panel monitor the health and well-being from the clinical trials of COVID vaccines. So the terms of reference for the community panel do not involve monitoring the health and well-being of the community, nor COVID-19 vaccinations. I think we have provided the information in the past around these being in the remit of the Department of Health and then also the Therapeutic Goods Administration, and we're happy to provide the details of those organisations, but it's not within the remit of the community panel.
Okay, thanks, Mr. CEO. Thanks, Kelly, for your questions tonight. I understand that's the extent of our public questions tonight, and we do thank the submitters for their contributions tonight. If there's no further business on tonight's agenda, that does bring us to the close of tonight's agenda, and we thank again the members of the gallery and members of the community who have joined us online, and with that we'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you. We don't appear to have any record of that. Can we hold your question over to the next, if it is in the system, can we hold it over to the next meeting? And we'll make sure it's not lost if it's in the system. Yeah. Thanks.